Hey everybody, welcome to Full Frame House. Thanks for tuning in. And today we have an interview with Nicholas Acosta, director, filmmaker, VFX artist, editor from LA. And he should be here any moment.
Yes! Sorry. Hey, how you doing?
Hey Nick!
Yeah.
Hey Nick, thanks for having us. Weird
sorry.
way to come into your own house, but...
Just sorry, I was flying through and just had to stop by. Hey.
Over the past few months, you have been a sensation in Instagram, growing your audience with your reels that really made it look like everything is possible. You know, like you don't have to have a budget of millions of dollars to make something look good. What inspired you to pursue this career in directing, filmmaking, VFX, editing, everything that you do right now? What kind of brought you up to this place?
I've been making movies since I was like 12 years old. I loved movies since I was a kid. As you noticed when you arrived here, I have a bunch of fun movie memorabilia, quite a collection of movies. I really love movies. My dad kind of instilled this idea of movies. He showed me a lot of movies. I grew up with films like, again, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, and the like. And for me, that was not only just a way of like entertainment, but escape. And just growing up, I always thought I wanted to be an inventor. And I realized that I'm not really good at science or math. When it came to like visual effects and things like that, as I got older, I learned VFX out of necessity, out of a situation where it's like, okay, I can't afford to hire someone or pay someone, so let me learn to do it myself. And we've talked about this before, but like I see filmmaking as creative problem solving. I like the idea of like, okay, you have a problem, what's the solution? It's also a little bit of magic too. I've always kind of had a fascination with like illusion, magic tricks. So visual effects and editing and filmmaking, I kind of incorporated that level of like what's possible as an artist, as a filmmaker, by just like, oh, okay, let's create something that looks like it's happening when it's not actually happening. Let's do a magic trick and make everyone think like, wow, how'd they do that? When you're like, part of you is going like, haha, they fell for it. That's the other part of it I like. I like the trick, you know, the prestige of it, you know, just being like, look what we did, ta-da, you know, like that's the best part of filmmaking and just making movies for me, is just blowing people away with what you just did, whether it be a cool action sequence, a scary sequence, or even an emotional sequence. If you can elicit an emotional reaction from your audience, that's the key. That's when you won as a filmmaker. It's like if you elicit an emotional reaction of like, they're supposed to cry when you wanted them to cry, they're supposed to laugh when you were supposed to make them laugh, they were supposed to be in shock or amazement when you wanted them to, you've achieved the job, the goal of what you wanted to achieve. And that's what I've always loved about filmmaking.
How do you approach storytelling using VFX as a tool and not as something that could subtract from the story, you know? Because if it doesn't add to the story, it could steal from the story, and then your viewer loses the points, the connections, and then because they're like, oh, this is horrible, or this is such good VFX that they missed a part of dialogue that was very crucial for the moment. So how do you incorporate VFX into visual storytelling and to kind of keep the story going, not to distract the viewer?
I feel visual effects from a standpoint of like how people feel about them emotionally, it's the same as any kind of thing, like any kind of like illusion or event you have. You can show someone a magic trick right in front of them, but it's like if they understand how it was done, it's like, oh, okay. Or if you tell them how it was done, if you show them something that just seems like, oh, okay, it's good, but I saw the string. You didn't do it perfectly. That's how people react. So like right now we're living in an age where everyone's just like condemning anything that's CG, and it's like, no, it was done practical. But actually that it's becoming a kind of a new thing where studios are denying that they did visual effects when they did. Look at Barbie. They try to say like, Barbie, oh my God, we actually did the visual things. But if you look at the behind the scenes of that, which were shown by my friends on a show called VFX Artist Reacts at Corridor Digital, they show that in the behind the scenes, they're actually compositing the blue screen footage for the behind the scenes footage to make it look like they shot it practically. there's something that scientists talk about called the uncanny valley. It's something in which where something that looks fake to something that looks photoreal, or in this case, humans. Let's just use humans. The goal is to get there. That's what we call the uncanny valley. It's like, okay, it looks real. It's starting to look real. Oh, it looks real, but there's something off about it. That goal is to get across that valley. And that goes with not just humans and everything. That's why when we look at visual effects, we're like, that's not a good CG representation. That's why when they were doing the face making people look younger in movies that were older, they were like, something's weird about it. The mouth or something. It's because it's hard. It's hard to get past that uncanny valley. The emotion that it gave us was like, something is off, and it pulled us out of the story. Visual effects for me is like about trying to use it as a tool. I always am a firm believer of the right tool for the job. You don't use something just for the sake of it. For a while, I was just doing things that were cool when I was younger, but as a filmmaker now, I try to like, okay, does this further my story? Does this help push the emotion for my audience forward? For those of you at home who are edit your own stuff or have seen people edit their own stuff, sometimes there's people who like their edit and they put everything in it. And then they're like, yeah, but it wasn't a good take. It wasn't good. But it's like, but I spent days on this. I spent hours doing this to the lighting. And it's like, and for me, it's like, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm a firm believer. And if 5 people tell me I'm wrong. So I will show my work to people, to as many people as I can when I'm putting it together. And if they're like, oh, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. If I get enough people saying that, I'm like, it's not working. So I got to cut it. And it hurts. It hurts to say that and feel that. But it's important to do that. So that works with visual effects too. If some people are pointing out the same thing, like that's not working, then it's not working. You know, I still make mistakes all the time. There's a video I'm gonna make very soon where I talk about how I made a mistake on something. And I feel that what we need to do is kind of recognize that making mistakes is okay. And visual effects don't have to be perfect. They just have to sell it for that moment, that one frame, that one instance, those 10 frames. I try to use visual effects when needed, when there's no other way to pull it off. More often, that's why my channel is about doing things practically and on a budget, because I don't have the budget or time to do full CG renderings or hire someone who can like make a dinosaur for me and like attack me. So it's like, how can I make a dinosaur for $5? You know, that's the way I see it. I always try to get like a backup. So if something doesn't work, I always get a backup shot, which is a future video I want to talk about in the future, which is about always shoot a backup for something. So if, like, don't depend on the effect, especially if it's something you've never done before. Be like, okay, if this doesn't work, we can cut to this. Like the example of her falling out of a plane and the plane exploding. It's like, okay, I know I could do the shot from below where it looks like it's exploding. The wide shot of her falling, that's a maybe. I'm not sure if I could do it, but if I had to cut that, I still got the other shot. And it's like, so having backups, and for me also knowing your strengths and weaknesses, particularly your weaknesses, I feel is like knowing that it helps you as a filmmaker to know what you can achieve.
You gotta learn to let go, because sometimes like you attach to a shot like it's your baby, because like I came up with it, I set it all up, I shot it, I have to let go. It doesn't work, it doesn't add, it looks bad, and the whole thing is gonna fall apart. So like learning to let go is actually very important.
A good example of that is on my recent film, The Pickup. Hopefully it comes out soon and hopefully everyone likes it. The Pickup we made during the pandemic. It was a situation where, well, I'm unemployed. I lost my job because of the pandemic. We were deciding, let's do this whole movie, but we're gonna do a car chase outside and because no one's on the roads, and we were shooting this whole thing with no budget. The whole film cost us $6,000. I had been working on it for months. I get to a point where I'm doing these visual effects, trying to make it look photoreal, where this motorcycle hits a cop car and the motorcycle flies and the car flies, and I was like, okay, I want to make it look real, and we're doing all these little things and it works good, and it's been months going by. We keep going back to the location, shooting, bringing people, bringing equipment. It's tiring. We have to wait for the weather to be sunny and all that stuff. Okay, wait, I just realized something. The motorcycle thing, the motorcyclist should fly off. So I was like, yeah. Okay, how can we do that practically? Because I don't know how to do CG and everything. I don't want to can't make it a toy character. So let me see, like, you know what we'll do? We'll get the actress, we'll get a trampoline, one of those big trampolines, and we'll have her jump and make it like fly, wearing the outfit, and I'll rotoscope them and everything. And my wife just looked at me, it's like, let it go. but it looks right. It's like, I understand, Nick, but you need to stop filming. You need to, good filmmakers don't finish a film, they settle. I always say that a great filmmaker doesn't settle easily, but like, it's true. A good filmmaker doesn't finish a film, they settle. You have to learn to settle. But it got to that point where, again, I had to step away and, what's the word you used?
Let go.
Let go. I had to let go and understand that, you know what? This isn't going to be perfect. It's not going to be the most amazing, but the way I see it, if everyone's paying attention to that one thing wrong that you've done on a big movie, then you got a bigger problem. Your movie's not working.
What are the best directors, cinematographers that inspire you personally? Like, who do you look up to when you like watch a movie? Right now, there's like a lot of big pictures coming out, and you're like, these guys doing a great job. Dune, Oppenheimer, Dune 2. It's a lot to look at. And I just want to see, like, what do you get your inspiration from?
I get a lot of my inspiration from directors that are kind of like big picture kind of guys, like high concept things. So you mentioned Oppenheimer. I love Nolan. I like his aesthetic of like reality, physical, like trying to get things real. I love his visual style. I love what he did with films like Inception, but also the Dark Knight series. I really like that. Another director who I admire who kind of does that is David Fincher. I'm a huge David Fincher fan. I love his precision. That's what I'm a huge fan of on his movies. This is precision of like getting everything super clean and precise. The camera moves and the way he shoots. That's like a element of mine that I've always liked. And with Nolan, he's more kind of the ragtag kind of approach to it, where more like get it real and don't make everything super scanned and photoed and just perfect. Like if there's a mistake, embrace it. So I've been kind of like leaning that. There's also the classic Spielberg, gotta love Spielberg. I've been actually rewatching Band of Brothers, which he produced, which is just like, because again, before Saving Private Ryan, all the war movies were all just kind of like, the good old GI men, like, nothing wrong, but these movies embrace, the darkness of man and things like that. And I just like the way he approaches his films, kind of, there's a sentimentality to it, especially what he did with the Minority Report. It's not like his normal films were super sentimental, but for me, it's like it has a sentimentality in the way he photographs. He takes moments. He makes an object important. The way he photographs, like the way that like something will go around, like in his movie Munich, he made a lamp, a scary thing, turning on and turning off a lamp, because once he turns it off, an explosion's gonna go off, and he's just looking at the lamp. It's like, I like that he does with that. And then one of my favorites of his is also Catch Me If You Can. I consider that a Christmas movie. I watch it every Christmas because it's set sometimes during Christmas, even though it's not a Christmas movie. I like John McTiernan, Die Hard, Die Hard 3 with a Vengeance. That's my favorite Die Hard, even though I love Die Hard the Die Hard 1 is the best, but I love Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Predator and all these movies that he does, Last Action Hero. I have like a lot of directors that I look up to. Robert Zemeckis in a lot of ways, particularly his early work. And then also like people like Hitchcock, which I think Fincher got a lot of his approach to. Is Hitchcock, he really likes he understands the idea of subjectivity, where it's just like a point of view. You're stuck in a person's point of view. And I feel that works really well with thrillers and horror, where you kind of stay with someone's point of view, as opposed to like, with film, we're getting all these angles and everything. Sometimes it's just good to kind of just stay with a person, stay from a point of view of one person. And that builds more suspense for me. And another person who's really good at suspense, which most people don't consider, is Tarantino. Tarantino, I like his aesthetic to suspense. Everyone thinks about how his films are about like, it's about crazy dialogue. Like, no, it's about suspense. It's building. As he says in like an interview, about stretching a rubber band so far see how far he can do until it snaps. And that's what he does with his movies. It's like stretch, 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 stretch. Oh, I just shot Marv in the face. It's like, that's for him. It's like how he does it. He stretches it so long, especially his later work where he's doing his movies about like rewriting history. He's really good at that. I'm inspired by so many different directors. Michael Bay. I love Michael Bay. Like, I think he's an auteur, and it's a weird word for people to hear coming from like Michael Bay, an auteur. It's like, no, Scorsese, an auteur, and everything. Scorsese I like too, by the way, but he's an auteur of visuals. In our film, The Pickup, I was trying to make it look like a Michael Bay movie. I got maybe 50% there, not even. And to get there completely, it's take away the budget. It's still like, how do you make it look like that? It's very hard, and that's the thing. Like, if he were what like some people call people like Michael Bay or Spielberg and all of them, they call them hacks. in order to do that, to be a hack, you'd have to be able to replicate them almost perfectly. And you can't do that with auteurs. Yeah. It's like, so I see it that way. And people I think that's the same way with Michael Bay, Snyder, Nolan, is that you can replicate the idea, but you can't replicate who they are. Same thing like with Wes Anderson. You can kind of get the idea of Wes Anderson, but you can't replicate exactly what he does, which makes his films work. Director of The Creator is doing, especially with what he's doing for the independent level of filmmakers, showing people like, you can shoot with the FX3 and make a huge feature film. It's like, I love that. I liked seeing that as an inspiring notion to a lot of filmmakers when that film came out. Everyone was buying FX3s, which again, it's not the camera, it's it's the mindset that you can go and make a movie for a very low budget if you just know what you want to do and have the will and come in prepared. So these visual effects that I'm showing people, is like, there's ways to do it better, I'm sure. I'm doing it in a way that works for me, and also that I feel works for that moment. You know, I'm getting a lot of comments saying like, hey, why'd you use a GoPro? Why didn't you use the other camera? It's like, well, because, and I suggest my restrictions, but for more importantly, it's because that worked for me given the situation that I had. And I could have used an FX3, but it wouldn't worked for the moment that I needed it for. We used so many different cameras on that movie. I used so many different cameras around. You've seen my collection. We have more, and that's the ones I've only shown you. There's a whole bunch. I have drones. I have 360 cameras. I have my iPhone. I can shoot on any camera as so long as I feel it's what helps me tell my story.
The right tool for the job.
Right tool for the job. I love that term. That's my favorite thing. Right tool for the job.
With all the new technologies that we have today, with AI, with Sora AI, with everything that helps filmmakers do something better, and sometimes people are scared that it could do better than them, than humans, right? What future do you see for filmmaking in general?
It can create some really great stuff, but it cannot do what Tarantino does. It cannot do what Nolan does. It cannot do what Spielberg does. It can do a facsimile. It can kind of recreate the essence of it. You can't, it would look at like Aaron Sorkin dialogue and be like, oh, just write really fast. It's like, no, there's character nuance. Same thing with Tarantino. Oh, just talk about pulp culture. No, it's about character, people, suspense, nuance, like things that technology can't do because it doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have heart, it doesn't have a soul. I got into this conversation with my wife before. She says, like, I don't never have a soul. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't have enough hubris. I have enough hubris in me to realize, like, I can't say for sure that happens. Technology can evolve. Who's to say that it can't have a soul one day? You can be a traditionalist, but then you're going to be left behind. There was a situation, I was sitting with my wife one day, and we were talking about a project that we want to do. I had a brand new camera, and she wanted to shoot on that. And I was like, no, we should shoot on this iPhone because it worked for so-and-so, yada, yada, for whatever reason. She was kind of a little hesitant about it. And I told her at the time, I was like, we can be traditionalists, but then we'll just be left behind because other people will use the technology to get ahead of us. I can be like, no, film, no, gotta shoot it on film, only on film, and make everything shot this way and all that stuff, and try to make my movie. It's my art and everything. Meanwhile, there's a kid in the middle of America making everything in Unreal Engine and made a short film called The Backrooms, and now he's making his feature film with A24, and he's 16, I think. Yeah. If he embraced technology, which this generation tends to do, but anybody, if we get so caught up in like, okay, we have to shoot on film, like how Nolan feels, but if you limit yourself with just like, oh, it has to be done practically, you're minimizing the possibilities of what you can do. I think AI is kind of scary, but at the same time, I think it is the future as a tool. I think you're going to see a lot of people using it as a tool because a lot of the things about, like, you see these videos where people are talking, there's this, again, I'm not sure if it was, I mentioned before, but like Patrick Willems goes into this amazing video. I highly recommend checking out his videos if you haven't seen it. He talks about how like everyone's looking at these Wes Anderson recreations. Oh, Star Wars if it was Wes Anderson, Star Trek if it was Wes Anderson, Dune if it was Wes Anderson. Those aren't what Wes Anderson movies look like. Everyone's just standing still. They're just moving portraits. It's not an actual documentary. It's not an actual video. It looks like a kind of like a static thing, and you're like, what is this? Like, it kind of gets the essence, it kind of gets the parody of a Wes Anderson film, but not an actual Wes Anderson film. And it's just moving portraits where they put a voiceover telling them, but there's no story, there's no character. And I feel that people think like, oh, they're going to just be able to put in a code and everything. It's like, oh, it's going to be able to recreate you in a room. No, it's not going to be able to do that. It may in the future, but until it gets to that point, then it's not going to get that. And I don't think it's going to replace, it will, see, some people will lose their jobs. Some studios will try to take advantage of it. That's the key, that most studios are going to fight us, are going to try to take away our jobs and try to like use it to replace us. I don't think filmmakers are going to use this to replace us. Studios are going to do this. And the more that, this goes into like studios making very stupid decisions, very much like this. I have all these DVDs because I noticed that studios could one day just say like, we don't want that on our streaming service anymore. We're going to write it off in our taxes and it just doesn't exist anymore. People who worked really hard on that. I think it's less about AI being the scary thing and studios being the scary thing. And we need to like look at studios as, and executives and producers who aren't filmmakers themselves, just money men. We need to look at them as the possibility of like the change in Hollywood, because it's already happened. It happened with this last strike. It happened during the pandemic when they were trying to, take films and videos off the streaming service. When they try to cancel Batgirl, or they did successfully cancel Batgirl production because they wanted to use it as a tax write-off. I'm talking about mainly one studio, if you guys aren't aware. But things like studios can do that, and I feel like AI is just the boogeyman that we use. It is a boogeyman, but it's not the boogeyman. Studios are the boogeyman. They're going to find ways like, how can we maximize our profits and minimize pain? And I think that's the thing with AI. AI, I see as a tool. Can it recreate a location store? I'm getting all these people talking about my videos saying, "Oh my God, like why are you doing your videos with car crash with toys and everything when you can create with Sora? You can do with Sora. I won't need that." It's like, no, it can't do what I do. It can do a facsimile. It can create something that like it, but it won't be able to get the detail, the nuance, like the exact angle that I want it to. I had every bit of control over that shot. So I think AI and technology should be embraced as a tool, but not as a replacement. As everyone, as most filmmakers, I'm sure, thinking the same thing. But I feel like people are trying to say AI is the problem. No, I think the people who are the bad actors trying to use AI or use it as a way to like, hey, we shouldn't pay you the rate, or hey, if we pay you a certain amount, then we can use your likeness forever and in perpetuity and use an AI and replace you. And that, again, that's what the strikes were about, which they fought for. And the writers got a good deal, the actors got an okay deal, not as well, but and it's scary because again, a lot of people can be replaced. I see that, and with AI, and I think visual effects might be replaced. That's the biggest one. Visual effects might be replaced. I don't think directors and camera, the people making the movies, I don't think they'll be replaced, because there is that nuance that they need to kind of control, especially because millions of dollars, they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not going to put it into like a program that can kind of somewhat get it right sometimes. They're going to give it to someone where they can control every single aspect, where it's focused. They'll try to be like, oh, can we replace them? And then they'll like, oh wait, this didn't work.
Back it up.
Yeah, let's go back to the way, or they'll course correct, but they're not going to risk hundreds of millions of dollars that they're putting into the movies. Even if it costs less, it's still too much money for them to like guess for it to work. They'll try experiments. It might work sometimes, but eventually they'll see like it's just not going to work in their favor. Personally, that's what I feel. I might be wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong. When it's like I fight for what I believe in, but I'll admit when I'm wrong. I mean, I'm using it right now with After Effects. I'm using AI to basically rotoscope, because I can spend every single detail doing that. But I also, and I can do every single detail and then waste my time, or I could do it quick. But I still have to use it sometimes because I have to clean up. So then it's like, well, shouldn't I have done it from the beginning? It's like, no, because it got me halfway there, and the rest I can just go the rest. Or if it got me 75% there, I just do the last 25% of like cleanup. And I think that's where the tools will come in handy. But AI will eventually replace some jobs. It very much will. Eventually, autofocus might replace, focus pullers. It might replace camera operators for certain events, like sports, certain things like that. The biggest one I feel it's going to replace, they need to unionize, and there's no union for it, photographers and graphic designers. Yes. Because eventually, you can have AI create like a great banner for you. Or it's going to come to a point where it's like, okay, there's no union for photographers and graphic designers. So it's okay. We got Nicholas Cage a permission to make a poster for the movie that he acted in and we paid him for and everything. Okay. Shot of Nicholas Cage looking left with a gun in his right hand, explosion behind him, car onto the left, woman by his side looking at him with blonde hair shimmering in the wind with the title badass, just like, cool, done. Oh, shift him slightly 50 degrees. Boop. It's like, that's going to be the future AI, where it's going to, photos and photography is going to be replaced by AI. That one I can almost guarantee. That's already happening in movies already, where they're putting like screenshots of like things of an establishing shot. It's going to happen. But the rest, the filmmaking, like the full process of making a movie, that'll still need humans very much. And even the person writing and creating the poster will be that. But even posters nowadays that's not being considered art forms anymore. They're just throwing them out. I think posters are art, but there's people who are they're just making posters where just everyone's heads. It's like, okay. It's like, so they don't care about the art form of posters like it used to be with Jaws and, the Harry Potter poster, the first one that was painted by hand, or Indiana Jones. I think technology is a tool that needs to be handled, looked at, researched, but it can replace us if you let it, but I don't think it will. I think people will try to let it replace you, but I think people will fight, as we do every day.
Nick, throughout this whole interview, you've been kind of mentioning and talking about this film, The Pickup. Yeah. Right? It's your short film that you've done for $6,000, and it has everything that action short film should have. It has explosions, car chases with explosions, shooting, all that good action movie stuff. I hope. How did you fit it into $6,000 budget and such tight crew? How did you make it happen?
By sheer will. During the pandemic, we were unemployed. We were home. Thankfully, we had a little bit of savings that we were never hurting, and unemployment helped a little bit. But we were like, what do we do? And we just saw no one was on the roads, and we were like, let's make a short film. And we spent some time writing it and everything. By the time that we shot it, people were getting vaccinated, that we felt safe. But we basically just, how I said earlier, we just planned knowing what we could do. Planned knowing the resources we had. I knew that I had my car. I knew that I could borrow my dad's car, which was the main car, the blue Honda Civic. We had a friend who had access to a motorcycle. And then we were like, okay, well, let's just see what we can do here. We had seen some people kind of do something like this before, but they did it at their own kind of style and everything. And I was like, I feel I can take it to the next level, or at least do it in my style. And I really wanted to get like that aesthetic. And I just wanted to, my wife and I just saw it as an experiment. If it didn't work, it didn't work. But as we were making it, we were like, oh, this is pretty good. So at first we were doing it for next to no money. And then during production, after the first day of shooting, first weekend of shooting, I got called back to my job finally. And I was like, oh, cool. Which then postponed how long we took it. So what it did was, there's that old saying, you want it fast, cheap, and good. You can only have two of the three. You can't have all three. So we wanted it good and cheap. It was not fast. 12 shooting days over the course of 9 months to put this movie together. And that was also because I had my job, because I work at the CW, consulting as a writer, producer, editor in their promo department. When I worked there, it was just like, okay, during the week, I can make money to now put into the film, but also I can make money to feed ourselves, and now we're not having to worry about certain things. So then we could take more time, because before it was like, okay, we only have a certain amount of time because we can't spend all our day on this because we got to make sure that we can live and everything. But since we had income again, certain stresses went out the window, and we were able to like invest into the movie. But we still had that idea of like, let's only pay for what we can. But because the world was opening up a little bit again, people were feeling safe, we were able to like, we can get more people in a room together for the command center. We can maybe buy more props. We can take a little bit more time. I can buy this software to kind of help with my visual effect. It was basically just thinking out what we have and what we can use. But then also gave us more time to plan, because we were planning to shoot it over the course of like 2-3 months back to back, like over the summer. And then again, I got back. So then it was like, okay, hold on. And it was when we could. But it was like, we didn't have any permits for driving on the roads and everything. So even though the roads, no one was driving, there were still people. By the way, whenever possible, please get permits and everything, or don't do any stunts or anything dangerous without permission or respect. I only did it because I'm an idiot and I have a death wish sometimes. I highly recommend you do the safe thing and the legal thing, but when possible, sometimes I understand when we don't do it, we tend to make very bad mistakes. Always follow your local laws of wherever you live. Do never do anything illegal. If the police tell you to stop, stop. If you're not supposed to do something, don't do something. So we decided like, okay, we'll just shoot on weekends mostly because now I'm working. And then when cars drove by, we just have to wait till they're done driving by. We're still going the speed limit, but we're shooting in a technique to make it look like it's faster. We're doing things that, oh my God, like you're shooting a gun out things like, well, we would make sure it's all safe. They're all airsoft guns. We would never wave them out. We'd keep them in the car. And the moments that they're out of the car, it was like safe, making sure no cars going by. We're not scaring anybody. We're treating them like they're real guns that people would see. I kept telling my crew, if you see a cop and they see you, drop the gun, put your hands up, just don't worry about the shot. No one's lives are worth a scene in a movie. I don't care. We had cops even help us on the production when there was no guns, of course, but help us with the production of some sequences because they saw us filming. And usually in LA, that's unheard of. You see a cop sees you in LA with a camera, they're like, where's your permit? These cops were like, what are you guys doing? Just making a movie? Cool, can we watch? Sure. Hey cop, can you just drive by for us for a sequence in our movie? Sure, just cover our tags and everything, we're fine. Great. The cops blocked off the street for us one time because there was a party going to go on nearby that was like rented out for a building, and they decided, oh, we got to be here. But they needed to block it at 12 o'clock. We were there at 8 in the morning or something like that. They saw us, and it was they said, hey, it's kind of a shady area, so be very careful. Like, oh, we know that. We've been very careful. One of our friends had like a security background, so he was there as crew, but also just in case something happened. One of our friends was like joining the military, so we were safe. But he's like, be careful. All of a sudden, the cop comes and just checking, make sure, be careful and everything, goes away. And then we're there, we're like, make sure you're done by this time, we will. And more time goes by and we're like, okay, we're wrapping up hours before they set us to show up, and we're like, or to leave, and they're like, no cars have gone by for a while. Okay, anyways, pack up. Let's go to our next location. Oh, there's a cop car there. Oh, let's go around. And it's blocking the road. Let's go around. Cop car's blocking there. Like, oh, sorry. We're leaving and everything. Oh, you guys are done? Oh, yeah. This is a different cop. Like, yeah. What do you mean done? Like, you heard about the project? Yeah, that's why we're here early. What? Yeah, our commanding officer or whoever told us like to stay here to block off the street and make sure you're okay. And plus, we have to be here anyway. So we're like, what? We had the street blocked off for us without having to pay a dime. Because A, we were polite, we were respectful, we weren't doing anything crazy, but also organized and professional. So again, like not waving the guns around and being like, we're making a movie. We're like we're shooting a film. We always put everything aside. That scene didn't involve any guns anyway, but it was like a situation where we made sure that everything was planned out to a point where it's like, okay, this will be shot on this day, insert here. If we shoot it this way and this way, we make sure that no one's hurt. We kind of take advantage of people's time. But yeah, we made sure because we were able to, especially when I got my job back, I was able to pay everyone gas for the rest of the production. We did one weekend where we didn't pay anybody anything other than food. And then after that, I got my job back. So every day after that was like, we can pay everyone gas. We're paying like $15, $20 for everyone's tank, depending on how much they were working, how much they were driving, if they were doing stunt driving for us in their cars. And it worked out really good. It was just like a situation where it's like we planned ahead and only worked with people who really were committed to making a great movie. That was another key thing to making this film work, was like finding people who related and understood and believed in it and wanted to support you and your dreams. Originally, we were just going to put it on YouTube. and I saw the amount of work we'd been putting into it, that's when I was like, no, we're putting this in festivals first. Because the level of detail, from the car crashes to which are just done with toys that match the real cars, and the locations that we were doing, and we're shooting that look really high quality. Like, we shut down the street, and we didn't. We just waited until cars were not there and making sure we did it safely. So it was just planning, particularly creating like animatics and storyboards beforehand, so we knew exactly what we needed to shoot, rather than just driving down the street and like, okay, let's grab a shot. It's like, no, we need to get this shot. It's on page 4. We need to get a shot that looks like this, set that shot up. So it was just puzzle piecing it together one by one.
If you could discuss something that was a challenging part, like if you had a project that was like, okay, this is tough, but we're going to get through this. We're going to use this, and this, right? Because as you said, filmmaking is a creative problem-solving industry. It's not just, I have a camera, let me just shoot something. It's creative problem-solving. So what was the most challenging shooting day or like shooting scene? What did you have that was very like, okay, I'm stressed, but I'm going to get through this?
I think the most challenging thing on that was just organizing everything to make sure. The first day, particularly, we're shooting a tunnel, no permits. We technically have some guns in it. We rarely pulled them out. We use it for one scene, and we save that for the end of the day. So that way, when the cops eventually, if they were called, we were already heading out. We thought the last 2 shots, pull out the guns. We're like aiming them outside, not shooting anything, airsoft, all fake. That was a stressful day. Because I was like, it's a big first day of shooting. We're in a place that is in the middle of LA. We're just driving, mainly just driving shots back and forth, and then just getting the shots of her hanging out the area. And I was stressed. Like, if we get shut down here, then if I can't even get the first day done, we're screwed. That's like one of the worst. Then on other productions, there's so much thing. I did a podcast with a guy where it was called The Worst Day Ever. I highly recommend it. It's called, the podcast, check it out on Instagram. It's called The Worst Day Ever. It's amazing. He does like sound effects, voiceover kind of thing while I'm telling a story. One of the worst productions I've ever been on, and that was super stressful. I'm not going to say what the name of it is, but it was I was a DP on the film, and it was terrible. But like, that's definitely the most stressful day I've ever had.
So Nick, one day you woke up famous, and not just low-key famous. You grew your Instagram from being at 2,000, right now it's over 25,000, right?
Yeah.
Your reels that you put out on how to make a car chase crash on a budget, they're getting millions of views on TikTok. Instagram, you got like 800,000 views, 750,000 views. What do you feel? Like, how is it being like one day you're like, okay, I'm just going to make this small little video explaining how I did this in my film. And then next day you wake up and all the views, all the subscriptions, all the follows coming in.
I don't think I'm famous, I comparatively, but it is cool because a lot of people like James Wan liked my video. Some known actors and people in the world are liking my videos, following me. So that's kind of cool. So I feel like a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't say famous, but a lot more attention than I did before. I get a lot of people reaching out to me more and responding, saying they love the videos, that they want to work with me, and I find that very humbling and really cool. It feels good knowing that finally the work that I've been working on for many years is kind of being recognized. And I think the key to that was basically, it was my wife's idea. I was releasing some of this stuff online, just saying, look at these cool things I did. And most people were like, oh yeah, that's cool. But the moment I started showing people, like, look what you can do, they responded more. And I think that's actually a really interesting kind of thing, which makes sense. It's like, people are always looking in for themselves a little bit. Not always, but majority of the world. And I think I really like that I'm helping people. I like that, knowing that people are responding to it because they know that, wow, I can achieve something. I can do this. Even if they can't do it exactly the same way, or maybe to the same level, they see, if anything, it's inspiring. That's my favorite thing in the comments I see is like, I don't have the gear to do this, but this was very inspiring. And that's what I love. I love the idea of people just getting excited about making movies, because that's how I feel all the time. We're gonna make a movie? Great. You guys are coming and interviewing me? Cool. What cameras are we using? It's like, that's how I am. I love filmmaking and the idea of filmmaking, even if it's interviews, documentaries. I prefer telling stories and doing like action, high concept, genre stuff. But I feel even if when I'm making my content about like how to just teach somebody something, that's still rewarding because it's a great creative outlet for myself. When, you know, right now I'm trying to not do too many shorts. I'm trying to push my feature work forward, and I have a day job. So I have like things I have to do at work, which is creative, and I have a lot of creative stuff there. But sometimes you want to do your own creative thing. And what's great about this is I'm able to do that, kind of, you know, stretch that creative muscle every week, every other week if possible. I've been trying to do it. There's going to be a break that I'm going to have to take very soon on this, so that way I can gear up and plan my next ideas. It's been interesting to see people's responses and the people who've been wanting to work with me, like technically yourselves. You guys have reached out, and I really liked your guys' vibe. And also some people who reached out to do like dance videos for TikTok or music videos, and then he promoted that, and now I'm getting more video views because of that. It's still kind of new to me, and it's every day I'm just kind of like trying to keep myself humble, being like, all right, you're not the shit yet, Nick. You're still working as anybody else was, but I don't feel like I've made it yet in this industry still, because I want to make feature films. I want to make things for like that could actually be seen and worldwide. But I have to realize my level of success might not be the same as someone else who looks up to me and says, wow, dude, you're working for the CW, you have a wife, a home, you're making movies for $6,000 where you have the money to do that and all that stuff. That's amazing. So I'm starting to realize like how blessed I am, and how, you know, fortunate I am to have like an audience, even if it is 25,000 compared to hundreds of thousands or a million. You know, I'm not Mr. Beast, but you know what? I'm my own person, and I hope that my work inspires, and I hope it inspires me to want to do more and do better.
What do you see for yourself in the future? What are you working on? Something you want to announce or tell people what to look out for?
I'm getting to that point where I'm just tired of making short films. Not that I'm tired. I love making films. I actually want to make something right now. I would love to make a short film right now. The thing is that I'm now tired of having to prove myself with short films. I think I've proven myself with the ability of what I can do. Not that I'm like above short films at all, but if the amount of time I'm putting into that is like a lot of time, I should be putting that into like actually moving my feature film career. And I think like I said, I have enough work to kind of showcase that. So that's what I'm trying to do, is getting people to see the work I've done, or if anything, make my short films be profitable. As in, if someone wants to hire me to make either their films or something like that, I'm trying to do that. So that way I can also pay what I need for, you know, my home and my life and resources that I need, but also help push my goal to make feature films. I'm trying to network more. I'm trying to, I got a couple feature films that I've written, 2 scripts. I'm writing another one. I'm also open to other producers presenting me with feature scripts that if I feel like, hey, wow, that's a great concept, I'd love to do that. I'm also trying to do it where like the couple scripts, I'm being realistic. Like, I'm not expecting to like make the best feature film right off the bat and get like, oh, it's going to be in IMAX. It's like, I know that it's going to take some time, but I want to at least get there. I have had producers in studios say, we love your work, you just haven't made a feature. So I'm willing to like try to make a film on a low budget that I can put out in, you know, in festivals, maybe get on a streaming service, but then use that success, or use that, you know, whatever they saw that like, oh, you made a feature, cool, now we can hire you to maybe get my next thing, or help invest in my next feature that maybe is a bigger concept, you know, because I have one script particularly that I want to make that's independent like film, like, you know, it's about characters. It's a thriller. I like making films about strong female characters. Almost all my movies are like that. And I want to make this one on the lower budget if I have to, while I have another one that it can be made for a low budget too, but I want to put the right resources so it could be seen, because I think it's good enough to be like shown in like theaters or like on a decent streaming service with like name actors who will sell it. But I know that no one's just going to give that to me. So I kind of need to like still network, still find the right resources, and still prove myself a little bit. But I'm now trying to do that with more of the way that I network I'm trying to move forward in my career a little bit. This, heck, even right now, what I'm doing right now with social media, I'm moving forward a little bit. I'm doing something different. I don't want to say stagnant. I just hate when I feel like I'm staying in the same place. I want to at least move, even if it's just a little bit. Like, that's the goal for me.
Nick, to wrap it up, give an advice to a young, maybe not young, to aspiring filmmaker who tries to get their foot in the door, who tries to try out things and see if it's theirs, if it works for them, somebody who wants to make it into this industry. What's your advice?
Be humble and understand and know your strengths, but definitely know your weaknesses. I've said that quite a few times. I see a lot of people who like, I'm a filmmaker, and I bought an FX3 and all this stuff, and they could do this, but it's just like, yeah, but you're not looking at your stuff and saying like, wait, maybe I need a little bit more work looking into this. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to realize you may not know all the answers. Feel free to network and work with other people who are better than you. And be okay to be like, yeah, they're better at this than I. Maybe I'm not a director. Maybe I'm a cinematographer. Maybe I'm not a cinematographer. Maybe I'm a sound technician. I think that's the thing that I see a lot of people. There's so many people who are trying to get into this industry because of YouTube. It's inspiring that a lot of them don't see what their strengths are because they're not paying attention to what their weaknesses are. That's the biggest thing.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for the interview. Thanks for having us. Thank you for opening your house, your mind to telling people your story. And for you guys, all of his socials are down there in the description. Look out for Film The Pickup. You can watch the trailer, right somewhere around there. The trailer is out, but the film is not. The film is still going through the phase of festivals. Once it's done, Nick is going to release it somewhere. He's going to tell you where, so you got to follow him on all the platforms. So he's going to make that thing known. Thanks for watching this video. Put the like if you like this video. Subscribe to our channel. Put the bell button if you want to get notified about new videos. Follow us on Instagram, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Yeah, I hope you're not going to make us fix that entrance of yours you made.
Isn't this insured?
Cut the camera.